Hello, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the New York Rangers and their general manager, Chris Drury. Obviously, the Rangers have had their struggles recently, and a lot of people are pointing the finger at Chris Drury. So let's get into it. Chris Drury gets hired May 5th, 2021 after John Davidson and Jeff Gorton are let go. His first 3 seasons, the Rangers had a lot of success. So his first year, the Rangers go 52, 24, and 6, 110 points, and they lose in the conference finals to the Lightning. Nobody's gonna have any complaints about a GM coming in and getting to a conference final. Season after, the Rangers go 47, 22, and 107 points, and then lose in the first round to the New Jersey Devils. Going into that series, even though the Devils were the higher seed, I think a lot of people expected the Rangers to win that series, but they lose a tough 7-game series to the Devils. People there probably started to take a look at the Rangers core and said, is this good enough? Those questions coming into the next season get answered. The Rangers go 55, 23, and 4, 114 points, win the President's Trophy, so they have the most points in the NHL, make it all the way back to the conference finals, and then lose in 6 games to the Florida Panthers. So again, the Rangers fail to get over the hump. I think the Panthers were the better team, but you win the President's Trophy, you make it to the conference finals. There's probably not too much you're going to change. The Rangers did have a lot of free agents coming up for the 2025-26 season, but that wasn't going to be a problem for this offseason, it appeared. The only real move Drury makes coming into this season is the trade for Riley Smith and letting Roslovic go, so it kind of swaps those two guys around. Team remains largely the same, and the current season, the Rangers find themselves 16, 19, and 1, 33 points, and in last place in the Metro. I don't think anybody could have predicted the Rangers being last in the division at the start of the new year, but here we are. How did they get here? How did the Rangers get to this point? This is where a lot of questions start to come in around Drury and what effect he's been having on the team this season. The Rangers start out great. 12, 4, and 1, 25 points, and a 735 points percentage. They're right there at the top of the division, right where everyone expected them to be. Everybody's playing great, and Aaron's putting up big numbers, Shesterkin's playing well, and then the Rangers head out west. The Rangers lose 2 games in a row. They lose to the Flames, and they lose to the Oilers, and then rumors start to swirl that Chris Drury has sent out a league-wide memo that he's open for business, mentioning guys like Chris Kreider, captain of the team Jacob Trouba. You can see the cloud starting to form. That 2-game losing streak turns into a 5-game losing streak. And then in late November, you get the meeting between Kreider, Trouba, and Drury. They try to hash things out, and it doesn't fix anything. A little over a week later, Jacob Trouba is traded to the Anaheim Ducks. You hear a lot of things about the way it was handled. Drury forces Trouba to waive his no-trade clause, or he tells him he's going to be waived. A lot of players not liking that. It's actually something that the NHLPA is talking about bringing up, where general managers won't be allowed to force somebody's hand like that and threaten the waivers for a no-trade clause. Not long after this, you have Capo Caco say, hey, I'm not the worst player on this team. I shouldn't be getting benched. I shouldn't be getting scratched. Caco, honestly, in his time with the Rangers, I think got a bum deal. A lot of the coaches, I think, didn't put him in situations to succeed. Shortly after the comments, Caco is traded to Seattle. Between those 2 trades, they bring in Vakanainen and Will Borgen. They've both immediately struggled on the defensive end, and the Rangers have just fallen apart, honestly. No other way to put it. Since that Western Canada road trip, they are 4-15 in their last 19 games. 8 points and a 222 points percentage ugly. From the outside, it looks like the team has turned on Chris Drury. I don't know if a team revolting on the ice to get the GM fired is something that can happen, especially with James Dolan as an owner. That's where the question comes in. Does Chris Drury deserve to be fired? You take the previous 3 seasons, all pretty successful, but we're going to start to go through some of his moves. I'm not going to talk about every signing and talk a little bit about the ones that I think are important to Drury's tenure. First big signing he makes is Barclay Goodrow. 6 years, $3.6 million a year cap hit. Won the Cups with Tampa. One of those kind of glue pieces that teams like to get to try to push them over the hump to win a cup. At the time, this looks like a massive overpay, and it turns out that this is a massive overpay because going into this year, Drury did the same thing he would later do to Trouba to Goodrow. He basically wanted Goodrow to get traded. Goodrow didn't want to go, so he waives Barclay Goodrow, and the Sharks pick him up. This is another move that I think started some of the resentment towards Drury. From reports, Goodrow was a guy that was really well liked in the Rangers locker room, one of the leaders. One of his first big signings turns out to probably be one of his bigger mistakes, I would say. The next big one is signing the contract extension for Mika Zibanejad. 8 years, $8.5 million cap hit per year. Obviously, Zibanejad's not playing up to that contract right now. Zibanejad knows that. He feels the pressure. He's made comments about it. And this is a player, when you listen to Rangers fans, that he's always at the top of the list of guys that they want moved. The thing is, with that contract, he's signed through 2030. He's not going to be moved. There's so few teams that would take on this contract. Even with the potential of the cap going up, I just don't see a way you get Zibanejad's contract off the books unless you're giving up something. So the Rangers are probably going to have Zibanejad through the length of that contract. Adam Fox getting the big contract extension worth every penny. Adam Fox is easily one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Norris Trophy winner, power play monster, plays a good defensive role, has carried Ryan Lindgren for years. That's a good signing, especially with the cap going up. That $9.5 million cap hit will look pretty good. Drury brings in Trocheck. That's probably one of his bigger, if not the biggest free agent acquisition he's made. $5.6 million for 7 years, though. That's a fine cap hit. The thing is, Trocheck's not a number 1 center. Between Trocheck and Zibanejad, they're probably looking for more from their top line centers. Gives Hedl another contract extension. Obviously, Hedl's been dealing with the injuries, the concussions, so we don't really know. So I can't really judge that one yet. Keandre Miller extension, I think that's fine. I think Miller's okay. Solid, like, second pairing guy. Miller is a free agent after this year, so we'll see if Drury re-signs him. Next up during this season, Lafreniere gets the big contract extension. He gets 7 years, $7.45 million. He's locked up all the way to the 2032-33 season. Former number 1 overall pick. Obviously, Drury thinks he's a cornerstone of the future. So far, Laff hasn't lived up to that number 1 draft pick potential. He hasn't had 60 points in a season. A lot of his point production comes playing with Panarin. He started out hot this season, but has struggled recently, but the entire team struggled. We'll see if he can develop. He's only 23, so he still has time. The most recent big contract extension, Igor Shesterkin gets 8 years, $11.5 million a year. That is a record for goaltenders, and I think Shesterkin is worth it. Without Shesterkin, I don't think the Rangers see anywhere near the level of success they have the last few seasons. So I know he breaks the bank here, but I think you had to pay Shesterkin. If you watch the Rangers play defense over the last couple seasons, but especially this season, Shesterkin has a real hard job, and he makes it look easy. Honestly, outside of the Zibanejad and Goodrow contracts, I think Drury has done okay with his signings. An area where he usually changes the teams more, and I think where more of the critiques may lie are with some of the trades he's made. We'll start with the big one. One of the first trades he makes, Pavel Buchnevich for Sammy Blais and a 2nd round pick. This is usually the trade that gets the most attention when people bring up Drury's mistakes. The Rangers have been looking for a top 6 right wing like Buchnevich since this trade has happened, and Sammy Blais isn't even a player that is part of the Rangers organization anymore, while Buchnevich has been a pretty solid player for the St. Louis Blues since then. You're gonna see a theme with these trades, which I think is the issue. A lot of these players don't stick around after they're traded to the Rangers. The next trade he makes is a 4th round pick for Frank Vetrano. This is a really good trade, but Vetrano doesn't stick around. Vetrano goes on last season, scores 37 goals with the Ducks, turned into a pretty good player, a reliable goal scorer. You lose a 4th round pick, not the end of the world. This next trade I do not love at all. Drury trades a 3rd round pick for Ryan Reeves. This is something a lot of GMs like to do. Trade for an enforcer type, and you give up a 3rd round pick for a guy that probably hurts your team more than he helps it. Reeves doesn't stick around long and gets shipped off for a 5th round pick later, so you net negative resources on this. The next real big move that Drury makes is he trades Morgan Barron, a conditional 2nd that becomes a 1st, and a 5th for Andrew Kopp and a 6th. Again, Andrew Kopp is no longer part of the Rangers organization. Is Kopp worth a 1st round pick? Probably not. And you give up a bottom 6 forward that's still playing for Winnipeg now. The next 2 trades are ones that might be more on scouting than Drury. You lose Ty Emberson for Patrick Nemeth and a 2nd round pick. Ty Emberson, a defenseman who was okay last year on a bad Sharks team and is now seeing minutes on the Oilers in a bottom pairing role. This next one doesn't look great because you trade Lundqvist for a 1st and a 4th. Lundqvist is playing in a top 4 role for the Stars right now, and that's another defenseman that maybe could be helping the Rangers with some of their struggles right now. And that 1st round pick that you got, along with Sammy Blais, are gonna go to the Blues with a 3rd round pick for Tarasenko and Nico Mikkola. At the time, this looks like the Rangers are going all in. Make a trade for Patrick Kane as well. This is the year the Rangers lose in the 1st round to the Devils, and Tarasenko, Mikkola, and Kane are all gone after the season ends. Kane, I understand he was going to have the hip surgery, so maybe not somebody you bring back, but Tarasenko and Mikkola go on to win a cup with the Panthers last season, and were part of the team that beat the Rangers on the way there. Following season, not too big of moves at the deadline. A 2nd and a 4th for Wenberg and a 4th for Jack Roslovic. Again, both of these guys are not on the team anymore. Drury is expending a ton of draft picks here for rentals at the trade deadline, which is fine for a team that's in win now mode. Obviously, they don't get it done though, and none of these trade deadline rentals re-sign with the Rangers. So you have all these draft picks go out, you don't win the Stanley Cup, and you have no young players coming in as this core is starting to get older and maybe reaching the end of their window. So we take everything into account. 3 good seasons, a disaster of a season this year. Drury with his signings has done okay. Failed to retain any of the deadline rentals or acquisitions, maybe has given up a couple of prospects that he shouldn't have, hasn't restocked the Rangers for the future, and as of now has failed at developing any of the top 10 picks the Rangers have had recently. I think the biggest issue is he's made it so the players might not want to play for the Rangers. The Rangers are in a precarious position, and I don't think Chris Drury is the guy to lead them out of it at this point. So what would the new GM do if they do move on from Chris Drury? Do you retool? Do you rebuild? Do you try to salvage what's there? I'm not sure. You guys let me know your thoughts if you think Drury deserves a chance to right the ship or if he should have been gone already. But that's all I wanted to say on this one. Bye-bye.